Everyone. Welcome to another evening of prayer for marriages. Listen, I was about to say worship and the word. But welcome to another session of prayer for marriages. Oh my God. This week has been very awesome for us, and I'm just really happy as to everybody that supported our session on this weekend. So happy week, new week. Listen, the months are just flying by, and I'm thinking that I don't know what's going on. I don't know what is happening, but time is just flying. I mean, literally flying. It's like flying out the door. So, but anyway, happy Monday. Good evening. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. We had an awesome weekend here, and we're coming to you this evening live. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. We just want to say good evening again and welcome to another session of Prayer for Marriages with yours truly, Marcia Baker, and your girl, your favorite person, your favorite person, Evangelist Nikki, right? So we just say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Listen, for those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube, do us a favor, please. Go ahead and like and share. Like and share. Those of you on YouTube, like and share. Those of you that are on Facebook, like and share. Welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries in your marriage. Lord Jesus, I think this is where a lot of people, I'm going to say us, a lot of us get in trouble, both the husband and the wife. So we're going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries, all right? So we're going to ask Evangelist Nikki to come in and greet us, and then we're going to go right into our session because we got half an hour and we're gonna pack it in. We might have to come back for a part two, so we're gonna do our best to try to get to at least one or two of our subtopics, of our boundary settings. All right, come on in, Evangelist Nikki.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Happy Monday, happy Monday. You're absolutely right. We had such an amazing time last week on our con-
Our
uh,
live.
conference, right? It was jam-packed, so much knowledge, so much knowledge. And, a lot of takeaways. And as Evangelist said earlier, we are talking about setting healthy boundaries. And a lot of folks is like, what is that? What does that look like? I just go with the flow. I wait till the wheel is falling off and I'm going to reel it back in. Listen, do not be dismayed. If you had not said it in the beginning, we want to start from now. So you're not running, wondering, assuming, and wait till, like I said earlier, when the wheel is falling off, you want to reel somebody in when it become a habit, when you did not discuss those up front. So we want to make sure that we are building a healthy relationship and healthy boundaries meaning we're not controlling others, right? We're saying these are what make us thrive, and we're not imposing it on others and assuming and being codependent. So healthy boundary is very, very imperative in every relationship. I know we're going to be specific gearing towards marriages, but you can, utilize these, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a colleague relationship, children relationship, peer, any relationship whatsoever. You can plug it in the way you see fit. But we want to start out tonight again as this is a platform for prayer for marriage. So we're gearing more towards that, but don't be dismayed. Don't tune out because you know what? I'm not married or it's not for me. It is for you. If you're tuning in, boundaries is needed in every form of relationship. Right, Evangelist?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is. It's very important. And when you don't set boundaries, you leave the door open for people to come and run your marriage and ruin your marriage. So as Evangelist Nikki said, we need boundaries in every relationship, but because this is prayer for marriages, we're gonna deal specifically with marriages. All right. So somebody may ask, blessings to my sisters online. Minister Trish, Lady Millicent, blessings to you all, Lady Stacy, all of you ladies, right? Now, boundaries? Some of you may say, what are boundaries? Now, boundaries are important, both personal and when you're in a relationship. So you have to have your own personal boundaries too. And when you're in a relationship, you have to have boundaries. In marriages, we need boundaries. And I know it may not sound good. Like, why do I need boundaries in my marriage? You need boundaries. You need boundaries, personal boundaries, and you need personal boundaries when you have in other relationships. There are limits that we set for ourselves as individuals, and in terms of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable in regard to how others relate to us or how we relate to others. Now, everybody cannot and should not be all up in your marriage. That's number one. Now, I know, as wives, we love our families. As husbands, our husbands love their families. We're not saying not to love your families. And a lot of time, what happens is persons equate setting boundaries to mean, oh, you don't want me to be around my family, or you don't want my family around. No, no. Because some families, right, depending on the personality of either the mom or the dad or the wife or the husband or the sister or the brother or the auntie or the uncle or even children, if you're in a blended marriage, you have to set boundaries, and they have to be healthy. And you have to set those boundaries during the courting period. You cannot wait until you get married to set boundaries. Why? Because then it would be when you start to set boundaries after the fact, persons are going to say, but I thought you were okay with it.
Yeah. Are you changed?
Are you changed?
Yeah.
No, it's not changing because, listen, what works for my household may not work for my sister-in-law's household, and vice versa, or my mother-in-law household, or my or his household. And sometimes, Lord help me, if you're married to a man that's close knit with his mother, you have to set those boundaries. You have to set those boundaries. I'm just going to say that straight up. You have to set those boundaries because you will have someone running your household that don't live in your household. And that's going to cause tension, not only for you, but for your spouse. Because then now it's going to come down to choosing. Lord help
Yeah.
me. What do you have to say about that, Evangelist Nikki?
Listen, I know a lot of folks right now is scrumming up their face like, this person is running my household, and I thought I was married to my husband and not the in-laws, because you were cool with them coming over helping you do the laundry whenever they wanted to. You were cool with them coming over helping you with the chores unannounced, right? So now that you're married, you're like, okay, hold on, it's gonna start causing conflict. And like Evangelist alluded to earlier, it's best to begin early in the court in a dating stage. It is much easier to introduce those boundaries when you're starting in a relationship rather than years down the road, especially once it becomes a habit. It's harder then because, like you said, Evangelist, it seems like you're putting one of the partner in the middle to choose between. It feels like they have to be choosing between family and their wife, and there's never a good outcome. Somebody's gonna leave unhappy, right? And we don't want it to start those divisions. So we want to make sure. Listen, if you don't like somebody that's popping up at your house unannounced, you need to make that clear. If you don't want somebody coming over and running your household, telling you what to do, what to cook, and how to cook without asking for help and invited, right? Or say your spouse is not well and the mom just shows up, or family member that is close to, right? Just showed up with like soup, or, oh, I heard so sick, so let me bring him, just pop in, I mean, I heard a lot of different stories. Thank God I really don't have those issues, but we hear different stories out there where it becomes frustrated, and then this other spouse is saying, "But you were okay with this. You were cool with it. Just don't just go along to get along. You will ruin your mental health." So make sure you're talking, communicating, and don't do the blame game when you're talking about setting boundaries. Don't point finger. Have dialogue, have conversation. Explain your why. Speak from an I perspective. I feels like this. Don't say you should have and you should know better. And that's putting up a wall right there on the other person because then you put them in a defense mode. So we have to be careful. If you don't like certain things and you said he said this is it, the other person said it's important to them, but to you it's not. It's one of your deal breaker. It's what you have to have those conversations. Don't just go along to get along.
That's
We see
true.
that happen and people are separating because they say, well, if you can't choose, what I mean, it's me or the family or me or the spouse. And the mom is like, or the dad, it's a war zone and it's frustrating because again, marriage, why the boundaries is important is to keep others out. So you and your person can build those connections, build those dialogue, making it not what this one did, that one did, but what you both agreed on that will work for both of you. And like I said, there's no one size fits all. Because what might be your deal breaker where the other person's coming from, it's not a big deal. Like, for example, for some of us who are pescatarian and will compromise, and if the other person, say, for example, eat chicken and stuff like that, we'll work with it. But if pork is a deal breaker in your house and you don't do pork in your house, for some of us, like I said, you got to let it be known. You got to let it be known. Listen, I don't cook pork in my house. I don't do pork around here. We don't bring pork around here. So, red meat, period. We don't do in this house. It has to agreed upon. And there has to be, so if the other person, that's what's important to them, you have to meet somewhere in the middle. It's not my way or the highway. I mean, simple things like that I see cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
People
It
slamming
does.
the door, walking out because they're frustrated. I don't eat red meat, but you don't. But what about the other person? What did you guys agree on? So these are have to be clearly defined. Like I said, we're not forcing our will on somebody else. It's a dialogue, it's a conversation, and we both have to come to an understanding. Not one walking and feel like they've been dictated to or they've been talked down to, but have a conversation. Not coming up after the fact when you
Yeah.
stressing out, kicking and screaming at the cat, right? Like, what's wrong?
Hmm.
And you should have known. If it's not being clearly defined, then it's gonna be causing conflict.
It will. It is. And you know why setting healthy boundaries, even between the husband and wife, is important. Is that so you don't overrun? You're not overrun and overwhelmed by the demands and the expectations of others, right? As Evangelist Nikki was saying, you know, um, one person don't eat meat, the other person eat meat. That has to be all of that has to be discussed. And I'm not going to cook certain dishes, right? All of that. You're setting boundaries so that I'm not going to be expected to do something that I don't want to do or is a deal breaker, as she says, right? And so when you set boundaries, it's a self it's you're setting yourself up to be independent but not single, independent
Independent, but not
but
codependent.
not codependent, right? And no, with your freedom and responsibilities, and it limits its essential engagement into a healthy relationship. Like some persons don't have boundaries when it comes to household chores, right? They don't have any boundaries, and so like most of the time, the women want to do all the laundry because we it's a certain way we want to do it, right? However, if we don't say we need help from the beginning, and then all of a sudden now we need help and we're complaining. We didn't set those boundaries early on. And so let me tell you something. Down to taking out the trash. needs to be expounded on. Because number one, if you're not communicating, persons won't know what boundaries they need to set, right? So it's very important that when you set boundaries in your relationship, especially to have a healthy marriage, it's crucial. It's very crucial to be a whole and complete person in order to engage in a mutually independent relationship with your spouse. Now you're saying, how can I be independent? I'm not codependent. Unless even if you have a disability, you're still not codependent. You still want to have some kind of independence and not feel like a burden to your spouse. So boundaries are need to be set. And I've heard it so many. I'm hearing it over and over and over and over and over again that boundaries weren't set, and now I'm frustrated. We don't want you to be frustrated. That's why we're talking about setting healthy boundaries in your marriage. It's important as brushing your teeth. It's really important because if it's not discussed, you're going to, let me tell you something, you're going to, I'm not asking, I'm not guessing, you're going to become frustrated because you're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to feel unappreciated. And I hear a lot of women saying, my family don't appreciate me. My husband don't appreciate me. The children don't appreciate me. Why? Because boundaries were not set. Is it too late to set the boundaries? No. That one should be part of the goal setting, right? So if you didn't set it at the beginning of the year, remember last week we said it's okay to restart, reset, and refocus. You can add that, setting boundaries to your list so that you're not overwhelmed, so that you're not becoming frustrated by doing the dishes. And God forbid if you're OCD.
Partially. Some of us are partially. I heard recently my husband said I am not fully OCD, but I'm borderline OCD. I'm one of them person. So I'm learning. And remember, boundaries is not manipulation.
No, it's
It's
not.
not a way to manipulate your spouse into doing things that you did not clearly defined up front when you're getting overwhelmed and put the blame game on them that they should have known or assuming. So don't use it as a manipulation tactic, please. That will not end well. No one likes to be
No,
manipulated. That's
no,
not
no,
healthy
right,
at
right.
all. So that's unhealthy. We want to speak about healthy stuff where you're communicating clearly, defining what is important to you, taking your spouse feeling into account and consideration, show gratitude,
Yes.
be honest. Don't listen. The worst thing you can do is set boundaries out of emotion. So you're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking clearly. You have to make
Right.
sure you have a level head, speak a specific time, uninterrupted time to have those dialogue where everyone is hearing, have enough time to respond and understand, not just speaking out of, something went down the hill and you join your husband, we need to talk. No, that's already a defense mechanism. Don't use that word, we need to talk. Men do not like to hear that word. They feel like
No.
they're being punished.
And you know what too? You know what too, Evangelist Nikki? We have to learn how to communicate your boundaries to your spouse. Listen, we're learning. We're all learning. We have to learn how to communicate the boundaries. Listen, never assume that your spouse can read your mind. Never assume that. And a lot of times when we don't communicate things that needs to be said or heard or done, we automatically assume, oh, that's a given. They should know that. No, no, no. I think that's where a lot of mistakes have
Yeah.
been made because we begin to assume, oh, he or she should know that. No, you have to say it. You have to communicate it because if you don't, they won't know how to read your mind, and they won't know what is important to you. I'm telling you, marriage is hard work. So for you single people that's listening, are you really ready to set healthy communication and effective communication skills in your marriage so that you are not frustrated when you're trying to communicate how you feel, how you want to be treated, how things are supposed to go within your marriage, right? Talking is good. Now, talking to your spouse and not at your spouse. I know in our culture, we tend to have an issue with speaking to the person and not at the person. I had to learn that. I had to learn that. Nobody want to feel like just being spoken at. It's not a good feeling. And so those type of boundaries need to be spoken out and be able to communicate effectively, right? Let your spouse know the limits in respect.
Yes.
Within respect, we have to know how to respect each other's feelings and each other's privacy. Some person may say, "But I'm married. We don't have any privacy." Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
and also respect difference of opinion and different
Right,
perspectives,
right,
you
right.
know.
Because we're not always going to agree. So we're not going to fuss
Exactly.
and fight and argue because we don't agree. We have different opinions. I'm strong headed, right? And my husband is even keeled. And so I learned, Marcia, learn to agree to disagree. And it's working fine in my relationship because I'm learning, because I'm not trying to overrun and overrule and overtalk him. So I allow him and he allows me, we allow each other to speak and express ourselves in a respectful manner. And it works for us. It's working for us, right? And we can talk about anything, any topic, and express how we're feeling without offense setting in, right? And that's when you have a healthy, effective communication in your relationship. Listen, I know some of us ladies are bossy. Jesus help us, God. I know I done lost some of my sisters right there. We are so bossy, and it doesn't take anything from us to humble ourselves. I'm not saying dim your light or become a doormat, but just to humble yourself and hear your spouse out. Some men are controlling. Lord have mercy. I done lost half my brothers, the male audience. But brothers, no, we don't want to be controlled. We want to be led. We want to be inspired. Show us your vision. Tell us your goals. Set boundaries for us. Tell me the limit I can spend daily. Give me my daily spending limit, right? And some of you may say, "Girl, I work. I don't need a limit." Listen, honey. Listen. Effective communication. We have to learn how to communicate these boundaries to our spouse on both sides. I'm not just talking about the women, men too. We have to learn to communicate. You know what I mean? Learn to communicate gently. Gently remind your spouse when a boundary is either intentional or unintentionally crossed. Gently reminder. As Evangelist Nikki would say, don't speak too rough, right? We have to make sure we're gently reminding them. Remember, always take your spouse's feelings into consideration when you're speaking to them, not at them. Trust and believe me, your girl Marcia had to learn how to speak to her husband and not at him because when you grow up in an environment where all the women are strong and bossy, it's a challenge. It becomes a challenge when you get married. Or even if you're a boss at work, like Evangelist Nikki, she's a boss. When she come home, she's not Mr. McKenzie's boss. She's his wife. And she has to assume that role of the wife and leave that boss hat at the door or in the office downstairs. So we can't intermingle them, honey. You may be Deborah in the battlefield, but when you come home, you are the wife, right? And so a lot of times we don't know how to separate. We don't know how to switch the hat, switch the roles, right? But it comes with maturity. It comes when you know how to set the boundaries because you want your wife to be happy. Wife, you want your husband to be happy, right? They have this thing going around, happy wife, happy life. No, it's happy spouse, happy house. Both of us need to be happy. You know what I mean? I don't want to be miserable. Evangelist Nikki don't want to be miserable. My husband definitely he don't want to be miserable, and neither does Mr. McKenzie, and neither does your husband or wife. So we have to make sure that when we're communicating our boundaries with our spouse, that we are speaking in a tone and a manner that's not condescending.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind the boundaries are flexible because, like we said
Yes.
initially, we want to start setting them in the offset when we start dating, when we get married. But remember, things do change over time, so it has to be flexible as well because having children, there's different boundaries you have to set. You're moving from a different location, you're buying a house, you started a new job, you're experiencing a loss, so many other things that can happen in between that might shift initially the way the relationship started out. So we need to reassess our boundaries and communicate them clearly. So everything you said, can't say, this is our harm, it has to be my way. It should be
Right.
flexible within reason, so where you're not coming off as being controlled, being manipulated, right? And being taken advantage of. But we have to have those conversations. A lot of studies said weekly. Hey, listen, what we're just saying, what works? Find time, make time. Don't let it go too far where you're not reassessing. And if you, like
Right.
Evangelist said, if you see that it's getting crossed, don't wait till the wheel fall off. Really then gently and said, hey, remember we had this conversation. This is how I am feeling. Don't say you did this after we said or we no. That this is how I am feeling. This is what I would like to change and take action. Let them know what you are able to action on and what you need their help on to help make the boundaries work. Because two people have to come in agreement for it to be productive. It can't be just one person. So then it
And
become control.
you know what this study says? It says the practice of setting healthy boundaries in marriages can lead to each of you to a partnership in which the needs of one another and the partnership itself are appropriately valued and respected. Listen, y'all, marriage is not for the faint of heart, but it is for the faint of heart, right? Marriage is work. And I know a lot of persons don't want to get married. Stop looking at the celebrity marriages. Stop looking at the TV show marriages. That's scripted. Your life is not a script. You're not an actor or actress. This is your reality. And if you want peace in your home, most of the time I am quiet because I want peace. My husband doesn't argue. So I just have to behave myself accordingly. I have to remember my assignment so I can complete it, right? I have to understand my assignment. And what I'm finding out is a lot of persons don't understand their assignment or
And
role
that's where,
in the
and you said
relationship.
a key thing there, evangelist, because a lot of people said, why do I need to set boundaries? We know each other. Listen, you go on the job. There is SOP, standard of procedure. It's the same thing in marriages. If you don't know what the guidelines are, what you know what I mean, what are the deal breakers on the job? It's the same thing in marriage. So if you use that same approach in your marriage by setting healthy boundaries, because we do that in corporate America, whether we work for ourselves, there is still boundaries. If you cross those lines, there are consequences. And normally, first thing you have a conversation. Some of them, lead to different consequences down the line, but we're saying it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume this is how it is because this is your upbringing. It's two different minds coming together to become one. How are we gonna become one if we're not communicating and letting expectation be known and clearly defined? Don't wait till the lines are crossed. Like I said, it has to be flexible because life happen, issues happen that might have to change and for us to reassess. So it's okay to reassess your boundaries and let the person know these are things that I won't compromise on because when these boundaries are broken or not honored, I don't feel respected. I don't feel valued. Let them understand it's not them, it's what the effect is on your mental health.
Right.
It's
Right.
important.
Yeah. Because I see a lot of persons, and I hear a lot of couples because I'm a relationship counselor. So I hear it. When I tell you I hear it, and then when I tell them, I say you need to set boundaries. Did you set boundaries? Was that discussed prior to you getting in so deep? And when they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Listen, that's why we're here to help you. That's why we're here to help you. We don't know it all, and trust me, I'm learning each time too. So we're not know it all. We're here to help each other build healthy relationship because I don't want, and especially because we're in the kingdom, right? I want not only for the kingdom marriages to work, but I want the secular marriages to work, your relationship to work, for you to be at peace, for your husband to come home to a peaceful environment, for the wife to come home to a peaceful environment. Because we do have some stay at home husbands, right? Whether they work from home or they just stay at home or whether they're retired. So they're still home while you're going out in the workforce. So we still need to come home to peace. And it's nothing like coming home and there is no peace in your household, right? So we don't want that. So we're saying setting healthy boundaries is you're going to remember and know the needs of your partner. And you're going to say, no, my wife don't like that. No, my husband don't like that. And you know what, too? Don't be afraid to say, I got to ask my husband. Or let me ask my husband.
Yeah.
Or, because guess what?
And don't be intimidated because a lot of folks will pressure you and say, oh, you're not your own person. You have to check in. And I'm like, you can tell an unhealthy relationship over there because you should respect that. When somebody said, let me check in with my partner to make sure that we're on the same page, we're on the same cadence. So that way we're not burning it on our house unexpectedly.
That's
true. Important.
It's important. And let me tell you something. When I tell people that everything I'm going to do that comes in my spirit to do, I say it to my husband, and he's like, my husband's first go to is, did you seek the Lord? Right? And sometimes I'm like, no, but I just want to ask you. You know what I mean? As my husband, I just want to ask you, what do you think? And he said, go seek the Lord and then come back to me. And I have to go seek the Lord and come back to him and say what the Lord said. Then, he'll say, okay, well, if that's what the Lord said, hey. Sometimes he said, you know what? That's your decision to make. And sometimes he'll give his opinion, right? But that's because that's how we set up. That's how my household is set up. That's how our household is set up. I don't just go off and do things without him. And sometimes I used to just go off and do things and then come back and tell him, oh, babe, this is what I'm doing. He's like, really? Really? So you're single now, right? And I would
and you're right, because a lot of persons will go off and be pressured into making the decision and then coming back telling their spouse, well, they're not having a conversation with them or a dialogue. They're already dictating this is a decision that's already made. And then that's when the defense come in, because when the healthy boundaries is not set, then you violate it. You say, you know what? I messed up. I know I should have checked in with you instead of coming and, let the person, like, you coercing them to agree after they make the decision without talking to them. So no, one person's in a defense because the other person, what else for me to say? You already made a decision without me, and then you're burning down your house and wonder why someone is upset because there was not healthy boundaries. Right. So those are some of the effects you will get when the boundaries is not clearly defined.
Right, and listen, we're out of time already. Jesus, it's 7:33. Listen, but we got to come back next week. Because we also want to talk about clarifying what types of boundaries are important. Right? We got some more stuff, y'all. We got some more stuff. The session is only for half an hour just to tease your appetite, and you come back next week. So listen, you're here tonight. We love you. We thank you. So come back next week when we give you the rest of nuggets. So what we've said so far, make sure you go over them. Communicate the boundaries, right? Set the healthy boundaries and figure out what boundaries need to be set in your relationship. You have to set boundaries. It's so important. When I tell you healthy boundaries are important for you to be successful in your marriage, trust me, you're going to thank us. 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 I know. All right? Listen, that's it for us on tonight. We love you so much. I want you to join us this Thursday, though, in our Before You Say I Do community. If you have not joined that community, our Thursday night community, you're missing out. This week we're going to be talking about, and I'm inviting everybody, right? We're going to be talking about created to be his/her soulmate. How you know you're created to be your husband's soulmate? Lord have mercy. So we have a husband and wife who are going to be presenting. So listen, you want to be a part of that session so you can realize And know, even if you don't think you're your spouse's soulmate, you can learn. There's going to be some tips provided to steer you in the right direction so you can become his soulmate. You're already married, so we're not telling you to divorce and go get a soulmate. Nope, you're already married, so we're gonna fix it. Fix it, Jesus. So we just want to say that to you. So thank you for joining myself and Evangelist Nikki on Prayer for Marriages. We love you. Listen, our goal here is to save families one marriage at a time, one couple at a time. We are taking our families back. Listen, we are taking our life back. We're taking our marriages back the way God intended marriage to be between a man and a woman. And we want to see healthy, flourishing, nurturing relationships in and out the kingdom of God. Amen. God bless you. Have an awesome evening. See you next Monday with part 2. Do us a favor. Go ahead and share this broadcast out. Like, share. For those of you that are on YouTube, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button so you will get notified when we go live. We're already connected on Facebook. God bless you. God keep you is our prayer. Yes. Have a good evening.